Okay, so what will be on the test tomorrow? If you're on your front cover of your yellow book, you'll actually see most of what's going to be on there. We're going to start in 3.1. And you need to know what is an isotope. Okay, what are isotopes? You need to know the difference between mass number and atomic mass. You need to know what ions are. What are they? How do they form? You need to know isotope notation. Now, do you guys remember isotope notation? Isotope notation is where you have the symbol for the element. You have up at the top, you have the mass number. Down at the bottom, you have the atomic number. And then up at the top right, you have the charge. Okay, so that's your isotope notation. You should also know that if I write aluminum 28, what does that 28 tell you? That 28 is the mass number. Section 3.2, and you do not need to know anything about Schrödinger, okay? It's kind of there. In this section, this is all about calculating the number of protons, the number of neutrons, the number of electrons, the atomic number, the mass number, the charge. Okay, that's what this section is all about. Plus, in this section, there are also Bohr models, so you should be able to draw Bohr models for ions and atoms. Okay, so neutral atoms, charged ions. Patterns in ion formation, that's being able to tell what charge an element will take on based on its position on the periodic table. And that depends on which group it's in. Okay, so if you've got group 1, it has 1 valence electron, it will tend to lose that electron and become plus 1. You should be able to predict that. If you are in group 13, it has 3 valence electrons, it will lose 3 valence electrons. Oh, that was bad, sorry. And it will form a plus 3 ion. If you have group 16, what will it do? Gain 2, so its charge will be minus 2. Okay, so that's what we mean when we say what charge based on where it is in the periodic table. Okay, you should be able to calculate average atomic mass. Okay, and I don't know if you remember, that is you take your decimal percent and you multiply it by the mass of isotope A. And then you add that to the decimal percent times the mass of isotope B. And then you do that however many more times, depending on however many isotopes you had, you add them all up, and that gives you your average atomic mass. Yes, so that's basically all 3.3 is about, is just that one little formula. If you can do that, you've got all of that down. Okay. There is a little enriched section in the average atomic mass. If you recall, there was a little section where you had to find the percent of each isotope. Okay, so that would be an enriched section that you could, the test has a separate enriched section, so you can request it if you want it. Okay. Periodic table and valence electrons, you know that periodic table quiz that you did? The one where it was like the alkali metals, alkaline earth metals, what are the properties of metals and non-metals and all that stuff. So that's like the quiz. Okay, patterns in the periodic table, once again, how many shells do you have based on the group or the period, and how many valence electrons do you have? Those are based on the group and the period. Okay. Lewis dot structures of atoms and ions. You should be good at that by now. I do find that some people are going back to, for nitrogen, they'll do like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that okay? No, because electrons do not pair up until they have to, so it should be N, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Probably you will most often see those Lewis dot structures of atoms and ions in the context of these ionic compounds. That was that last question of the Lewis quiz. Okay, and most people, if you were going to do badly on that quiz, a lot of people did badly on that question because they kind of forgot. It was like, oh, we did that a week ago. It's been a while. So definitely check that out. And then for the rest of them, basically we're going to see page 124. Okay, let's go to page 124, and I'll show you the ones that you are responsible for. Okay, there we go. You are responsible for group A, group B, stop making noise, group C, D, E. Stop making noise. Sir, stay. There's the USB keeps coming in and out, like it's not really stable. Group E, expanded octets, that would be enriched material. Okay, if you want to, you can do that. Multiple central atoms is included. Group H is enriched, and then group I is also included, species with resonance structures. Okay, so very much like your quiz. I think the only kind that the quiz was missing was multiple central atoms. Okay, so you might want to take a look at those. In particular, the straightforward ones like, you know, these ones. The other ones are a little more complicated, so don't get too fussed about them, but the rest of them should be all right. Okay, 41, 42, 44, 45, 46. You should definitely be able to do those ones. Okay? So that is what is on your test. Now, should you want some quick review, you could go to the front of your book, starting on page 3. If you're like, I don't remember how to find the mass number, guess what? It tells you how to find the mass number. I don't know where the mass number goes. Oh, look, it shows you where the mass number goes. It's page 3. Yes? Or what is this? What is this at the end of the name? That is the mass number. Okay, so all in one place, you're getting all that information. It shows you how to calculate the number of protons. That one's super easy, the atomic number. How do I find the number of neutrons? I take the mass number minus the protons. How do I find the number of electrons in a neutral atom? It's the atomic number. How do I find the number of electrons in an ion? So I find the electrons in a neutral atom. If it's negative, I have extra electrons. If it's positive, I have fewer electrons, and you just either add them or subtract them. How do I find the charge of an ion? If I have more electrons, it's negative. If I have fewer electrons, it's positive. And you say if I have 3 more electrons than I should, it's -3. If I have 3 less than I should, it's +3. So that's page 3. Page 4. Page 4 gives you a summary of most of the periodic table stuff. It shows you all of your groups. It shows you who are the main group elements. That's group 1 and 2, and 13 through 18. It shows you the number of valence electrons. Okay, and you can see how that relates to the common charge, right? And then we have our valence electrons here, and we have our common charges down below, and it shows you the names of all the groups. It shows you the lanthanides and actinides. That's page 4. And let's see if page 5 has anything useful. Oh, that's just how to draw Lewis structures. So if you've forgotten how, pages 5 and 6 walk you through the steps of how to draw Lewis structures. Is good? Okay, that's it. That's all that's on your test. Today, you are going to be, if your name is on the board for quiz 2 or 3, those are expected to be done by today, as well as quiz 4. Most of you should be trying for quiz 5. Okay, I know if you're a little behind, you might need to get caught up, but trying for quiz 5 today. If you don't quite get to quiz 5, that's all right. Now, just before I set you free to go do things, let us take a look at, it is page, in your green book this time, page 6. So grab your green book and turn to page 6. To your right, probably. Did you find one? Okay, cool. So here we are. This is a very simple flowchart because I find people are like, okay, I know what to do with my prefixes as long as I'm on the quiz that's all about prefixes. I know what to do with Roman numerals as long as I'm on the quiz that's all about Roman numerals. But now I start having a quiz where I have Roman numerals and prefixes and like all sorts of different options. This flowchart can help you sort out which options, okay? The section about writing formulas, we haven't really gotten there yet, but if you are working ahead and you find this helpful, you can use it. We're going to bop down, though, to the naming of the compounds, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to look at your compound and you're going to say, does it start with a metal or NH4? If it does, then it is ionic, and you will follow the rules for ionic compounds. The only other possibility is that instead of starting with a metal or NH4, it will just be 2 nonmetals. And if it's 2 nonmetals or metalloids also, then it is molecular, which is also known as covalent. And then you follow the rules for the molecular ones if it's 2 nonmetals. So let's follow the molecular rules here. Let's follow our arrow all the way down here. La, 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 la. Oh, look, if it's covalent, that's where I use the prefixes. You'll notice nowhere on the left-hand side, if we go all the way down and we're looking on the left-hand side, any prefixes here? Nope. Any prefixes here? Nope. Any prefixes here? Nope. So there's no prefixes unless it is two non-metals. And remember, you have prefix and then your first name, prefix and then the second name, and the only thing here is that there will be no mono on the first word. Okay, it mentions that here. No mono on the first word, and you drop the O and the A before oxygen and oxide. So everything's kind of there. Yeah? Now, what if we don't have two nonmetals? If we don't have two nonmetals, it's going to be either starting with a metal or it will be starting with NH4. So we are going to take a look, and does the metal form only one type of ion? That's going to be metals that are not in the gray zone. I'm going to put gray/red depending on what you like. Okay, gray, red zone. And these ones, is there anything about Roman numerals here? Do you see anything about Roman numerals? No. So these ones, there are no Roman numerals. Just name the cation, name the anion, change the ending to "-ide". Now, if you have a metal that forms more than one type of ion, so in other words, it is in the red zone / gray zone, okay, so if it is in the gray zone, this is where we have the Roman numeral. Okay, so we write the cation, we write brackets, and the Roman numeral goes in the middle, and then we write the anion plus "-ide". And the only other thing to watch out for there is if you have a polyatomic ion, don't be changing it to "-ide, just keep the name. Is good? Okay. If you're getting into the acids, this doesn't cover acids. This is the one I gave to my grade 9s because it's nice and short. But if you do get into the acids, the next page 7, you can see I can recognize an acid because it begins with H or ends in COOH. I find the name of the anion, and I name it depending if it's an "-ide ion, an "-ate ion, or an "-ite ion." And there's a little mnemonic underneath, so that will help you with that. I'm not going to teach this today because you've got enough on your plate, but if you're working ahead, you can find this, and there's a little Tyler DeWitt video on it as well, okay? But if you're working ahead, that's there. If you're working ahead to quiz 11, the hydrates are here, okay? So pages 7 and page 8 give you a little bit more. They include all the stuff that's in grade 11 in addition to the stuff that was in grade 9 and 10. Okay? And I think that's it. Yeah, there's some ionic and acid formula writing methods, and then we're to stuff. So yeah, so your job today, get your name off the board. Do quiz number 4 if you haven't done it already. Aim for quiz number 5. And if you're like past that already, and if you're like, oh my gosh, I've already done quiz number 11. If you've done quiz number 11, you can come and get the organic chemistry booklet. Okay, this is the enriched material for this unit. There's the answer sheet. All right, there are quizzes that go along with this as well. So help yourself. If you do get into the acids, there's an extra sheet of ions for you. So if you're getting into quiz 9 and 10, come ask me for these extra ions. Okay? And I'll give stuff back now.